There we go. Okay, we're on live now. So everybody, welcome. I'm very happy to have Marcelo Knobel here. He is the former president of the University of Campinas in Brazil and is a full professor of physics. And I'm very happy to have him here in our talk, in our short interview for the GUC 2021. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. It's a bit different than usual. We can't be in Hamburg, but we'll try to make it as nice as possible. So maybe you can just start off by telling us a bit about yourself, about who you are, how you came to this position, and yeah.
Okay, well, my name is Marcelo Knobel. I am the former rector of the University of Campinas in Campinas, São Paulo, Brazil. I finished my term about 1 month ago. My background is physics, so I work in experimental physics, in particular in nanomagnetism. But I have been studying also, of course, higher education in Latin America and in Brazil. And I do work as well in science dissemination, popularization of science and technology. So I have these interests and try to keep working on them. And I think that this theme of the council this year is very important, the global change, the climate change. It's a very, very important question to address for the society.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll follow up on that. As you already mentioned, climate change is our topic this year. What would you say, and how far are topics of climate change and sustainability being discussed in the broader society in Brazil?
Well, of course, we are living in a very complicated time right now, and all the attention is devoted mainly to the COVID pandemic, and therefore the discussions on the sustainable goals, the discussions on the global warming, and the issues of everything related to our future and the nature and so on are a little bit postponed because of the pandemic. But of course, here in Brazil, we have a very important role to play in the world regarding this climate change, regarding the forest. We have the Amazon forest here, and we are now facing a very complicated times. Our government is a government that denies the global warming, and we have the ministry working together with the deforestation process. So we are facing a very complicated times, and there are institutions and organizations trying to make the society aware of these problems and try to address them and to solve them in any form. So we are dealing with a very, very complicated time, and I believe that many things are being are happening right now, and we are not aware of them. So this is to worry, and we should pay more attention to the things that are happening right now, not only in Brazil but around the world regarding the global warming issues.
Yeah, thank you very much. What would you say, in your opinion, is the main task for universities to fight climate change? Where do universities position themselves in the fight?
Well, there are many ways to do that. Of course, the primary goal of the universities is to help to the education of a new generation of students and future professionals, and of course, these kind of themes should be a part of the curriculum in any kind of degree, any place in the world. So this should be an integral part of the formation of a new professional. In the institutional level, of course, also the local community, the local students and faculty and staff should work together in order to make the campus or the campuses more sustainable. So ideas of sustainable campus, recycling of garbage, the use of solar panels and so on should be more implemented in many parts of the world. And of course, the universities could be and should be a practical place where to test new ideas and where to make pilots, for example, in order to make that happen. And of course, in terms of society, research in this area should be also very much implemented and stressed and valued in terms of the research that universities can make, and only there can be made. For example, interdisciplinary research, multidisciplinary research in terms of climate change. Also the role of communication. So we have the important role of communicating science and technology for the overall population, and this should be done as well in the issue of the sustainable goals and the climate change issues.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Maybe as a follow-up question, what would you say? What do universities need to fulfill this role, this task, or to promote sustainability? What resources? What is needed?
Well, I think it's already happening in many parts of the world, many universities, and there are even now rankings that take into account all the measures, all the practical issues regarding sustainable activities that happens in all these universities. But there are many things that can be even further performed. I would say that an incentive for research in this area would be really important, and this could come not only from the universities themselves, but also from the governments and cooperation with companies, local companies, and the local governments, and so on. So this should be stressed and make it a priority all over the world. So this is something that should come from the top, from the leadership of the university, in order to make really these issues and this worry about the future as a priority for the universities.
Wonderful. I would like to go a bit towards activism and maybe on the political spectrum, because as you mentioned before, you have a state where the government doesn't believe in climate change, or doesn't stand firmly behind it. So in my sense, compared to other countries, perhaps, universities have to focus much more on activism, or reach out to activist groups, perhaps. So what would you say is a relationship between universities and climate activist groups, for instance, in Brazil?
Well, to be frank, I really don't know any initiative or really strong initiative that connects these two important groups, the activism or that happens in the NGOs and in many associations together with universities in terms of the global climate change. So I would say that this is an important issue that should be, in my opinion, explored more in terms of connections, cooperations between important institutions in the society. The important part of research, especially in social sciences and applied social science, should be also stressed. I would say that the universities play a fundamental role in order to make and to propose public policies in terms of a sustainable future that we have. So I would say that this is an important challenge, and we should work together in order to make stronger these movements to make population, the society as a whole, aware of the problem that we are already facing.
Thank you. Very interesting. Maybe even a bit more, if you feel comfortable with it, talking about national regulations and so on that are imposed upon on institutions concerning certain topics. What would you say do national frameworks have on the activities of universities? What effect do they have in Brazil?
Well, it's a complicated problem right now because, of course, as you know, the federal government we have a ministry of how it's called, the environment ministry, but this ministry is working against all the rules that protect the forest, that are against the rules that protect us against the climate change, and we are really worried about that. But on the other hand, the universities, especially the federal universities, depend on this government for their budget, and they cannot really go and crash against each other because they depend on these fundings and so on. So it's a very complicated issue in terms of the governance system of the university system. But the universities are keeping an important issue, which is the autonomy and the freedom of speech, and they are really discussing this issue in public in order to make the society aware of this issue. So we are facing a very complicated times, and I would say that we can work together in order to make this communication happen more, easily, to transform the society and to show to the general population that we are really facing a very complicated and very difficult time. As if we don't take any action now, it will be late.
Great. What would you say now, maybe just in a bit more compromised situation? What would you say are the possibilities of institutions as universities are to take action? And those under those regulations, you mentioned the freedom of speech, but how big is the effect really, and what are the possibilities?
Well, I would like to answer that with an example, maybe. As I mentioned, I was the president of the university for the last 4 years, and we, of course, started a movement which is called Sustainable Campus. Things that are usually done in other universities. But beside that, we started a program which is really big, and it congregates all the institutions working together with the university. We are working together with a private university. We are working with private companies. We are working with the local government, with the state government, in a project called the International Hub of Sustainable Development. The idea, for example, is to create a district here around the university, which is sustainable, which is a smart district, with all the new tools and the IoT systems and the sensors and whatever is necessary. And we are planning now this district focusing on the sustainable goals. So this is something that the universities can lead, that the universities can make happen. So think on the future, maybe think on big projects that can really change the situation and make themselves a model for other universities, other regions, and this is the leading value or the leading role of the universities in order to make really challenging, complicated, complex problems come to life.
Great, thank you for the example. I think that makes it quite clear what is possible. Coming to maybe even coming to COVID, just because it's present right now for all of us. What would you say does COVID have for an impact on higher education in Brazil? What are the the problems that result out of them, and how do you cope with them as a university?
Well, the pandemic, of course, all over the world was a really challenging period, and it has been. In Brazil, we are just in the middle of maybe the third wave, that if you want to call it that way. It's a very complex and complicated times. We have also, as not only a government which is a denial of the climate change, but also denial of the pandemic itself, which is really crazy. But this is what is happening right now in Brazil, and in the universities here are facing a very complicated times, as it is happening all over the world, I would say. The point I would like to mention is that connecting to the theme of this council is that paradoxically the universities have shown that they can change, and they can change quite quickly, quite rapidly, and they can make this change really effective. So all the universities all over the world, independently of the degree that they had on online education, they managed to make a quick change to the remote mode, to what we call the emergency remote mode, and it's not perfect, but it's working. So the urgency and the emergency that we had made a big change happen that would be unthinkable maybe 2 years ago. So maybe this is a lesson to learn from this pandemic, that we are able to make very complicated and very complex changes in a very rapid way. So I would make this comment in more, in a more optimistic view, that we can also something like that change in terms of the goals for a sustainable future. We have to keep in mind that without doing that, our future is really compromised, and we should work in order to make this change happen as soon as possible.
That was a great connection between the two topics. I think you're absolutely right. Corona has shown, even as shown us in terms of climate, what happens if cities shut down, and if cities do not, if cars don't go out on the street as much. And so yeah, I think that's a very nice connection there. Last question, just coming back to the council you just mentioned, where would you say the GUC or council can support the activities of universities to promote sustainability, or in general, what do you see as a chance of this council?
Well, the idea is to gather together leaders from different parts of the world with different. Well, the higher education system is rather heterogeneous, rather complicated, but it's always good to hear opinions from leaders all over the world and how they are dealing with these issues in different contexts. The idea of this council always has been to finish with a declaration, which is it's an important declaration in order to support actions in the local level. Maybe some resistance, maybe some issues that happen at the university level can be, faced or be challenged by an important document that comes signed by very important leaders around the world. So it's an important setting in order to discuss this issue, how they will be framed for different parts of the world, and how this can really happen and change. So it's a kind of support for a change that must happen all over the world in different universities.
Great. If you feel like adding something if you feel like making any statement that you want, feel free. Otherwise, I would say thank you so much for your time and for the interview under different circumstances. I hope in 2 years we can be back face to face. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining in. At this point, we just had a short talk with the former president of the University of Campinas, Unicamp, and thank you, Marcelo Knobel.
Thank you. I would like to thank all the organizers for the meeting. I have been working together with them in order to make this happen. It's a pity that I was not able to go to Germany right now. I would love to go there again, but of course, we are facing a very complicated times, and it's better to have the meeting even in this remote format. I would say that it has been great to work with all the organizers, all the leaders around the world, and it's a pleasure to contribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you.